What's up, Vetters? Patrick here with Vetted. Today we are talking about this.
And I cranked my head up just in time to spot this. I hate to say it, but it was a classic flying disc-shaped object. I don't think that it was physically on fire. It was almost like this, almost like magma-type glow was wrapped around the front of it.
All right, Vetters, please hit that like button. That really helps out the videos. And of course, if you're not already subscribed, hit that subscribe button. I'm trying to get to 100,000 subscribers before the end of the year, and I really need your help. Now, just FYI, I am going to be taking a few days off because tomorrow I head for Spain. So just FYI, but I will be back up and running in no time. So let's get into this video. All right, so basically the story is this. There's this gentleman that came forward, this new whistleblower who worked at a military nuclear base, okay? And his job was to, like, protect the nuclear or whatever, missiles or whatever. And he experienced multiple things at this base. We're talking shadow beings on multiple occasions. We're talking a flying disc, like you just heard in the intro there. Bright light on his very first day arriving at this base. And this took place over the course of, 3-4 years, right? It's just honestly very, I don't know. It's a little shocking, to be honest with you, because he's not alone. There's a lot of other people that were with him, right? Now, some of these people don't want to come forward, but Ross has talked to some of these other people, and you'll hear him a lot in the story say, we. And there's so much to this. Honestly, I couldn't put everything. So I do recommend going to watch this full interview. I'll put a link down below in the description. Go check it out because there's just a lot that happens that we just don't cover in this video, right? As I said, but let's get to the main story that I thought was the craziest. This flying disc, crashing at this military base, or allegedly crashing. Wait till you hear the rest of the story. Now, let's learn a little bit more about this gentleman.
And it's my pleasure today to welcome a gentleman by the name of Joshua Shelton, who was entrusted during his military service to provide security at Area 2 in the early 2000s. Now, we've talked before on Reality Check about the obvious nexus between UAPs, paranormal phenomenon, and nuclear weapons and facilities. And what Joshua is going to reveal today is quite extraordinary. It's a story that's never been told before. He was present at Area 2 during an alarming series of paranormal UAP events there.
All right, so now that we've learned a little bit more about him, let's let him tell this amazing story of this flying disc crashing at this military nuclear base. Now, I say crashing because that's what he alludes to, but wait till you hear the end of the story. And I have to admit, the beginning of this clip is equally as shocking. I'll explain afterwards.
Let's move on. There was another incident where a large disc-shaped craft crashed after silently overflying the storage depot complex. Tell me that story.
So this one's a little disturbing for me because somehow I completely forgot about this incident, and I don't know how I could have forgotten because it was so obvious. It was right over my head. And when we talked, you got in contact with Robert Hastings, who I had originally talked to shortly after I had separated. So I can't explain how I could have forgotten about this, but as soon as you showed me what I had told Mr. Hastings, I remembered the incident. I was on the alert fire team, which was stationed at the alternate security control center, and we were outside. A few of the guys smoked, so we were outside with them, kind of joking and just hanging out. One of the other patrols was there, so it was a total of 6 people outside. And I remember that the guy that I'm facing, we're talking, joking about something, and he kind of looks up above my head, and his eyes just go wide. And as soon as that happens, I kind of turn my head to look over my shoulder. And as I'm turning my head, I see this reddish glow that kind of approaches on the ground. and I cranked my head up just in time to spot this. I mean, I hate to say it, but it was a classic flying disc shaped object. I don't think that it was physically on fire. It was almost like this, almost like magma type glow was wrapped around the front of it, and that was what was illuminating the ground underneath it. But it was flying maybe 200 to 300 feet above our heads, very low. And as it approached and came over us, it actually deadened sound wherever it moved. Like the natural sounds of like the building right next to us, the desert, other patrols in the distance, they got very faint, almost like when you stick your head underwater. And as soon
Is
as
there
it
any noise
cleared,
from the object at all? Do you hear anything like a propeller or a jet or a turbine?
nothing like that. A little bit of a hum, but I don't like I don't know if it was the object creating the hum or maybe its interaction with the atmosphere.
Now, let's not beat around the bush here. This is a craft, a solid physical craft of some kind, breaching the airspace over what is probably one of the most sensitive facilities in the United States, if not the world. This is where thermonuclear weapons are stored. Describe what happens.
So the object came right overhead, and you could tell it was losing altitude because it was dipping down lower as it came and passed over us. As soon as it was clear of us, that's when sound returned and you could hear everything normal. We immediately got on the radios. By the time we got the first radio call out, the object had cleared the perimeter fence line, and it seemed to go behind this area that we call the bluffs, which is what kind of blocked us from view from the rest of the desert. And once it went down behind the bluffs, there was a massive flash of like orangish reddish light, and it was so big that all of us kind of braced ourselves because we honestly thought whatever this thing is, it's just crashed, and like it's such a huge explosion, we're gonna get knocked off our feet.
How big was
And
the object?
I'm a little hesitant because at nighttime and you don't have a good reference, I estimated it was 200 to 300 feet above our heads. If that estimate is right, and I'm fairly confident that I'm right about that, I would say it's about 45 to 50 feet across. So it
Wow.
was a good size object. It wasn't a drone. It was very large. I've
Could
been
it have
next to
been
military
an
aircraft.
aircraft of some type? Maybe a blimp or is there any kind of known prototype or craft that you can think of that might plausibly explain the shape that you saw?
So it was definitely not a conventional aircraft. It had no wings. It was a perfect disc-shaped object.
Any
Um,
windows, lights?
we only saw the underside, and the underside was perfectly smooth. There was no, I mean, it did go by pretty fast, but there was no obvious markings, no obvious
Was it?
signs of.
Did it have a metallic sheen to it, or was it of unknown construction? Did you see? Did it look constructed?
It definitely looked like it was something that was built, and whatever this reddish glow at the front of it was, it consumed about a quarter of the craft or the object, and it was reflecting off the bottom. So that's why I know that even though it was dark, that's why I know that it definitely had a sheen to it of some sort. Like it was able to reflect that light from this glow.
And so you hear this massive explosion. Was there a concussion? Was there a
So
physical force from the blast?
So that's the thing. We didn't hear an explosion. We saw as soon as it went under or behind the bluffs, and again, it was definitely on a downward trajectory. We saw the bright flash of that orangish light. There was no sound, and we braced ourselves. There was no sound. There was no concussive force. There was nothing that you would expect. I mean, we kind of felt stupid because we suddenly like you do this dumb pose where you duck down. Um, nothing, no sound, no force,
So
absolutely nothing.
what's the response to something like that? Clearly, something has breached the airspace over an incredibly sensitive facility. You've obviously got to go and investigate.
Yeah, so I know on the central security controller side, one of the first things that he would have done would have been to contact main base, to contact the air traffic control tower. So I know that they would have done that. I don't know the results of that from that night. But as far as us out on patrol, we immediately went mobile. Anytime there's like a significant security incident, but no specific threat, everyone goes mobile. Everyone's in their vehicles, fully kitted up, ready for something to happen. The exterior patrols, Oscar 1 and Oscar 2, they were dispatched out to go to the bluffs because we expected an object to be crashed there. We fully expected to find like hurt people, something. So they immediately went out there to start looking for this object, and they found nothing. There was nothing out there. Now, granted, we were limited in how far we were allowed to go from the perimeter to like maybe 300 to 400 meters. Um, but I just find it incredible to think that there was no wreckage, that there was nothing, no signs of this accident.
All right, so again, this is such a crazy story, right? And it is very like, he just seems so genuine, and he told so many stories in this video, like I explained earlier, right? Multiple shadow beings, an orb, right? All these things that took place over the course of 3 or 4 years. I mean, that first orb sighting he tells in the interview, happened on the first day he got to base. That's unusual, right? This flying disc. I mean, it seems like maybe not the entire base is involved, but there were patrols that went out to check out for this thing that didn't crash, right? As he put it, there was no evidence of it, but he also said they couldn't go further. There was no sound from it. I don't know. Very unusual, very interesting. And he seems very genuine. And the fact that he was not alone in all of this is very, I don't know. It's kind of interesting, his story, right? Now, we'll see all the other stories too. It's just like, that's a lot. It's like, this guy's been through a lot, you know? So that's a little whatever. But again, he's never alone on all of these incursions, except for one instance where he's kind of alone, but then other people show up too. So again, but the one big red flag that I noticed, okay, for me personally, was at the very beginning of the story when he says like he didn't remember the story. And it took Ross sort of jogging his memory from a previous interview he had done for a book with Robert Hastings that sort of got him going, right? Like, oh yeah, I forgot I told that story to Robert Hastings about the flying disc. Yeah, let me tell you about that. I forgot about that UFO that I thought crashed at the base. Oh yeah. I mean, that's kind of like, how do you not remember that, right? But, to be fair to him, we wouldn't even have known that he forgot that story had he not brought it up. Now, one other thing I'd like to point out is that, later in the interview, it is claimed that he went and testified to the FBI. But, you hear that a lot, right? People go testify. They testify. Okay, but the bigger question to ask is what happened after you testified, right? What action did they take from your testimony and or evidence, right? If nothing, we should know that, right? And we should know the reason, right? So it's never just enough that they wouldn't testify. Okay, now granted, it is, they're not just going to listen to anybody. So there's something there, right? Something that got him in. He's had so many experiences. I don't know. It'd be curious to know what happened. It's just like a lot of action just doesn't happen from these, testifying behind the scenes and whatnot. They may be interested or whatever, but, what actually happens. So anyway, look, I'll put a link in the description. Go check out the full interview. It is quite interesting. Again, he has so many experiences, and he does seem like a genuine guy. There are more people involved. But again, as always, it would be nice to see some evidence for this, right? But, this is where we are. So anyway, all right, y'all. We'll see you guys on the next one. Remember that every day's a gift, y'all. Peace.
Hey, Patrick. This is Jason Allen out here in Tooele, Utah, close to Dugway. There is a hot spot out here. I see orbs frequently, usually a certain time at night. One morning, a couple months ago, it was about 5:30 in the morning, There was an object out there. It was glowing orange, going across the skyline. It got really bright, went back down to just regular orange, disappeared for a few seconds, and then, just like in Star Trek, when they go to warp speed, there was a trail of light up into the sky. And it was the coolest thing I ever seen. Thanks, Patrick.